Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm taking you to the Ultra League, where at long last, I finally have access to one of the Ultra League's strongest Pokemon, Shadow Raikou. Shadow Raikou with the Aura Sphere buff is absolutely incredible. The big issue for me was I just didn't have one on my account, but luckily we had Shadow Raikou Raid Day, and I was able to get a Shadow Shiny Raikou with some pretty good Ultra League IVs. Shadow Raikou, not only does it have really nice coverage, but it's lightning fast as well. This Pokemon is an absolute terror to battle against. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and I'm going to be showcasing my strongest Raikou team. Hopping into game number 1, we're off to a very strong start leading into Togekiss. My opponent safe switches into a Licky, and they are completely core broken by the Raikou. Raikou launches Aura Sphere, Licky will put up the shield. It's tempting to just send in Como-O, but I'm expecting this is a Como-O bait out, so I'd rather save my Como-O for whatever my opponent has in the back. Because Shadow Raikou is just going to outpace the Licky Aura Sphere after Aura Sphere. My opponent has been forced to go down both shields already in the first 30 seconds of the match. They're going to pivot out into their own Raikou, but I have a pretty good answer available with Como-O. I know that Como-O will be able to survive an Aura Sphere here, no problem. My opponent is actually running a different moveset though. They're on Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands, that does do quite a bit of damage, but Clanging Scales is going to set up the perfect farm down. Back in comes Togekiss. Unfortunately, I'm going to get fully farmed down here with Como-O, but I realize my switch timer is almost up. So I'm going to wait a turn, wait for the clock to come up, and get the snipe with the banked Wild Charge. This means their Togekiss is getting one hit KO'd. Back in comes Licky. Licky will get the farm down, but the damage is done. I can send in Wall Rain. And Wall Rain, even though rollout hits for super effective damage, I'm up a shield, I have a health advantage, there's just no way for my opponent to win. Wall Rain farming up to the back-to-back Icicle Spears. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Picking up a pretty nice lead in the next match, Shadow Raikou into Shadow Malamar. Now this lead matchup feels like it would be a little bit uncomfortable, but with Raikou having 10 turn and then 8 turn pacing for Aura Sphere, you just end up outpacing Malamar. That's how fast things have gotten in terms of pacing in the Go Battle League. 10 turn pacing used to be the standard, but now Raikou with this 10-8 pacing is able to outpace and win the 2s just by landing a third Aura Sphere before they can make it to a third foul play. Raikou has taken some pretty substantial damage from a Psywave, but importantly, I'm able to hang on and make this Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere, I believe, should be able to take the knockout onto Malamar. Looks like my opponent has a very bulky Malamar, so I decide to snipe them down with Wall Rain. Wall Rain has proven to be a very strong Pokemon on this team. I initially tried Titan, but I feel like for an Ice type that's in the back, ideally you want a Pokemon that can damage Steel types without debuffing itself. Empoleon is able to get some solid damage in with Drill Peck, but look at the Earthquake go. I'm just going to keep farming. My opponent banks energy and sends in Corviknight. Corviknight, not really what Como-O is hoping to see in the back, but still definitely not bad. Icicle Spear is going to land. Wall Rain already at Icicle Spear number 2. These Icicle Spears just add up so much over time. The Corviknight is now very low. I just send in Como-O just to force my opponent to waste energy. Obviously, I'm a fighting type, so they can't go for the payback. Instead, they have to go for Air Cutter, and Air Cutter is not a particularly efficient attack. Air Cutter number 2 is going to land. That's not going to be a problem. In comes Empoleon to snipe me down, but I have a pretty clear win con. Bring in Raikou, throw 2 Thunder Shocks, and then catch onto the Wall Rain. Then I can Thunder Shock down and leave with the Wild Charge to win the game. So I bring in the Raikou, try and go for the catch, but I get 1 turn bring-in lag, and I don't get my catch. The good news is I will still get the win, because Wall Rain should be able to make the Icicle Spear here, but man, 1 turn bring-in, I haven't seen that in a bit. I do not like seeing that that's back. Luckily, we're still able to win anyway, but that did make that endgame a little bit scary. Tricky lead in the next match, Shadow Raikou into Como-O. Now this is a negative lead for Raikou, but I do like staying in and playing it out. Raikou, if you're able to successfully call an upper hand bait, does actually win the zeros, and this is a rare moment when I feel that safe switching Como-O into an opposing Como-O is actually very safe. Normally, a Pokemon with a double weakness like Como-O can't be safe swapped, because what if they have a Pokemon like Clefable in the back? Well, they can't really have a Clefable behind a Como-O, because then they would just lose the Corviknight lead. So in this case, it actually feels like a pretty worthwhile gamble, and it ends up paying off as my opponent sends in a Volt Switch Fortress, a Pokemon that would completely destroy Wall Rain, and a Pokemon that Como-O has a very favorable matchup into. Upper Hand is going to land. I do get the Upper Hand debuff, so a bit of good luck does go my way. Upper Hand number 2 is going to land. A second debuff. Oh my goodness. Como-O popping off. I decide to call the bait here. Earthquake will do quite a lot of damage, and I'm going to switch into the Shadow Raikou to snipe down. I just really didn't want them making a last second charge attack. They bring in Credilli, and I have a lot of super effective damage for Credilli. My opponent makes a very nice catch, catching the upper hand onto Como-O, but I still just have so much energy here, and I still have a Wall Rain in the back. Unfortunately, it looks like I have slightly misjudged Como-O's bulk. I was anticipating it would get to another upper hand, but unfortunately, I do not survive the acids. However, the good news for me is I have a Wall Rain, and Wall Rain is monstrously bulky. Rock Tomb lands, doesn't even do half, and I should be able to make it to the back-to-back Icicle Spears. Even though my opponent will apply debuff after debuff, Icicle Spear is a very efficient charge attack. So I get to fire off Icicle Spear number 1. That's going to connect, getting them very low. I'm not going to get a farm down here. It's going to come down to a charge attack priority tie. Wall Rain does not win charge attack priority against much, but it does win over Credilli, and we're able to secure that win. We move to the next match, Shadow Raikou into Shadow Ampharos, the battle of the electric types. I'm pretty happy to see the Ampharos on the lead, as if at all possible, I really want to try and keep this away from the Wall Rain. Ampharos goes for the Trailblaze, ramping up its damage. Raikou will be able to make the back-to-back Aura Spheres, guaranteeing a zero shield win. Ampharos will oftentimes make a play for switch advantage by putting up a shield, but that just sets up a huge farm down for Como-O. A lot of the times, I feel like when I see electric types, they're paired with Pokemon like Torterra, and Torterra really can't do anything into my backline. So, in comes Como-O, they blind through a Trailblaze, and that's going to set up a nasty Dragon Tail down. I exit with a ton of energy, but disaster as it's Clefable in the back. That's not what I was expecting to see. I send in Wall Rain, Clefable stays in, so my opponent clearly doesn't have a strong answer here. Moonblast will be shielded, and in the back, they have Shadow Feraligatr, and this is a problem. Feraligatr will be able to absorb the energy from the Wall Rain. I'm forced to go for the Earthquake. Earthquake will do some pretty substantial damage, and I will go for a CMP tie on their back-to-back Hydros. I really need this Icicle Spear to knock out, but I don't think it's quite going to do it. And if it doesn't, they're already at Hydro Cannon number 2, and that forces me to go for a catch and sneak onto Como-O. I will lose valuable HP on the Como-O, but all that means is they're going to get less farm on Clefable. Back in comes Clefable, looking for a farm down, but I will make it to the back-to-back upper hands. My opponent is going to be no shielding as I go for upper hand number 2, and this is going to be a race. Clefable has to double up on Meteor Mashes before I can make it to the double Icicle Spear. It's going to be close. I see him P-tie here, and I really have to hope that they're not at the back-to-back. I'm still one off the game-winning Icicle Spear here, and I do lose charge attack priority. But unfortunately, I think Clefable has me, and they do have the back-to-back Meteor Mashes. We made it as close as we could for having a Clefable on Como-O, but that alignment was just too much to overcome. Shadow Raikou into Shadow Dusknoir in the next match, and this lead matchup is always a little bit tricky. A lot of Dusknoirs love calling the bait, because as the Raikou, you're heavily incentivized to throw the move that doesn't debuff you. So it's always a really tough gamble. Do you end up full sending? Do you go for the bait? In this scenario, I went for the bait, and it did actually pay off. But I feel like it's a really uncomfortable matchup for both sides. My opponent safe switches Virizion, which is a very bold play. However, I feel like it actually makes a little bit of sense into a Raikou lead, because Raikou can't really have flyers in the back, otherwise you're ABA to Stunfisk, and that's one of the big problem Pokemon for Raikou. Virizion will spam out Sacred Sword after Sacred Sword. I know Clanging Scales is the most efficient charge attack in the game, so I'm just going straight for it. Clanging Scales is going to land, but look at the bulk on Virizion. Virizion survives, and that is so unfortunate. I'm forced to put up the shield. I wait the turn to see if they snipe, but they do not. So I do exit with the Clanging Scales. This is going to hit hard on anything that gets brought in here that isn't the Fairy type, and they send out Stunfisk. So, the Pokemon that is really not great for Raikou, but Wall Rain will actually do quite well here. The thing I do have to watch for is the potential switch into Dusknoir. There it is. In comes Dusknoir, and I fire off Wild Charge. I'm very close to the back-to-back Wild Charges here. Wild Charge will be shielded. My opponent throws a charge attack, denying my ability to make Wild Charge number 2. Shadow Punch will take the knockout. Back in comes the Wall Rain. I have to hope that this Icicle Spear will be enough to KO. Shadow Dusknoir, not known for its bulk. Icicle Spear lands, but it's 1 HP remaining. Dusknoir makes a last-second charge attack. If it's Dynamic Punch, I'm finished, but it's just a Shadow Punch. Now back in comes the Stunfisk. I go for the Icicle Spear once again. Come on, Wall Rain. Icicle Spear lands. Another 1 HP survive. Oh no. Now it's Wall Rain that has to hang on. Discharge lands. Wall Rain survives. And that was a roller coaster game. Far too many 1 HP survives. But luckily, my Wall Rain gets the 1 HP survive at the end to secure the win. We've got a battle of electric types in the next match, Shadow Raikou into Belly Bolt. And to my big surprise, this is a Sucker Punch Belly Bolt. I feel like almost every Belly Bolt that I've seen has been Thunder Shock just because Sucker Punch Belly Bolt's pacing is really bad post Parabolic Charge rework. So with the Thunder Shock, even though you don't really have coverage, that's not really the goal of Belly Bolt. The goal of Belly Bolt is just to try and boost up and try and out-neutral things. Belly Bolt is not going to get the farm down. I make the last second charge stack. I cover for the catch by spamming out Wild Charge, and Wild Charge will get them very low. In comes Como-O. My opponent throws on alignment. These battles are in the 2900s, so seeing alignment throws is a pretty big surprise. They land the Zap Cannon. They get fully farmed down. What do they have for me? They have a Wall Rain. That is not an answer to Como-O up energy. I launch the upper hand. That's going to land. Save the energy. Get the debuff. Pivot into my Wall Rain, but that's not what I was hoping to see. It's Volt Switch Fortress in the back. Volt Switch Fortress is such a good answer to Wall Rain. I can hit for neutral damage with Earthquake, and my opponent actually puts up the shield, much to my surprise. An Earthquake, even pre-debuff, would not have done a lot of damage, and now I potentially have the ability to snipe with an upper hand. I'm going to keep farming with the Wall Rain. They throw the Rock Tomb, but this is great. I'm not going to throw this energy. I'm going to look to switch out and try and snipe with the upper hand. So I switch into Como-O, throw the Dragon Tail, and fire off the upper hand. They already burned their shield, which means this is guaranteed to land. I continue the farm. There's the switch into Wall Rain, but they're not able to get the Icicle Spear as they get sniped down with upper hand. Upper hand will take the knockout. Back in comes the Fortress. Fortress has to hope they can exit with a charge attack, but they're not getting that farm down. Como-O makes the upper hand, knocking out the Fortress, and Como-O, what an end game there as we're able to get that win. Terrible lead in the next match, Raikou into Gastrodon. I save switch into Wall Rain, and my opponent answers with Licky Licky. It's matchups like these that make me love Wall Rain in the Ultra League. Even though I'm going up against a rollout user, Icicle Spear and Powder Snow are so strong now that look how this matchup plays out. I just get to fire off Icicle Spear after Icicle Spear after Icicle Spear, and my opponent, whether they throw a Body Slam or Shadow Ball, neither move is going to do a lot of damage. I'm going to get to the back-to-back Icicle Spears and actually force a shield from my opponent. And if they don't want to give me a shield advantage, then I'll happily take switch, and then Gastrodon is going to have a pretty tough time going up against Como-O. So I'm able to get the shield. I'm too bulky, they can't even farm me down. They're forced to fire off the Body Slam, and now I can go for an incredibly aggressive Thunder Shock down with Shadow Raikou. My goal is to try and exit low on health, but with a ton of energy, so if needed, I can potentially snipe my opponent later on. I think they'll survive this Thunder Shock on 1 HP, and I think that's actually better, because I can send in Como-O and get a 1 Dragon Tail head start for the endgame. What does my opponent have in the back? They have Galarian Moltres, and my opponent was running a team that was triple weak to Como-O. I initially tried Regidrago in the Dragon slot to complement the Raikou, but I really liked Como-O. Como-O's ability to hit Steel types, whereas Regidrago never could, I think is a really big plus. Man, I'm getting upper hand debuffs left and right, but in this matchup, it looks like upper hand 2-shot, so in this scenario, it won't really matter. However, my goal here is I just need to land a Clanging Scales on that Gastrodon. If I can do that, Gastrodon will absolutely feel the pain. In comes Gastrodon, I'm going straight for the Clanging Scales, and Clanging Scales is definitely going to hurt. That's big damage. I switch into Raikou and unleash Wild Charge. I'm not sure if Wild Charge does more here. Wild Charge lands, they survive on 1 HP, and I snipe them down with Thunder Shock. Back in comes the Moltres. They need to get to a fly to win, and the pacing on Como-O is just relentless. We make it to another upper hand, knock out Galarian Moltres, and even despite the terrible lead, we're going home with the win. Hopping into the final match, Shadow Raikou into Florges. This is a really nice lead matchup for the Raikou. Florges is going to do what Florges does best, which is spam out Chilling Water every 10 turns. I'm not going to throw right away. I would rather take the damage and then farm up just shy of the back-to-back Wild Charges and really look to put some pressure onto my opponent. Wild Charge lands. That's a debuffed Wild Charge, by the way. And now I'm just going for Wild Charge number 2. This will easily take the knockout. Down goes Florges, and no matter what gets brought in, I'm pivoting Wall Rain. They brought in Toucannon. This is only a Drill Peck. Toucannon has a very scary attack stat. They're actually running Rock Blast for some reason. Rock Blast, definitely not the move to go for on Toucannon. The only time it would ever be better is against a Pokemon like Talonflame that takes double super effective damage. That's how strong Drill Peck is and how incredibly weak a non-stab Rock Blast is. So Rock Blast never going to be the play, and here, look at Wall Rain. I don't even have great IVs on the Wall Rain, but now it's our turn to get a 1 HP survive, force both shields from the Sand Slash, and now, I just have 2 Pokemon that have fighting moves. So Sand Slash is getting one shot one way or the other. Como-O farming up. There's a catch attempt onto Toucannon, and I'm sending in Raikou. Raikou gonna look to try and close out the game here, as I will put up the shield. They go for another Rock Blast, and I'm gonna try and farm up as much as I possibly can. Can I survive one Powder Snow? I would love if Raikou could get the sweep. Back in comes the Sand Slash. They throw a charge attack, and now I definitely get there. Ice Punch will be shielded. I get the Aura Sphere, and it's gonna be so long. Good night, Sand Slash. Aura Sphere takes the one-hit KO, and that is a good game. All in all, I had so much fun getting to run this team. I really haven't run a lot of Ultra League Como-O either, but I ended up being really impressed with it. I think that all three Pokemon on this team have really good synergy together. I initially tried out, as I mentioned, Satitan and Regidrago backline, and the team just wasn't really gelling, but I switched it out for a different Ice type and a different Dragon type, and that made all the difference. This team, I believe I consistently went either 4-1 or 3-2 across the sets that I played with it, so the team ended up performing amazingly. Shadow Raikou, I love how flexible it can be. Even in its bad matchups, going up against electric resistances, having Aura Sphere as a coverage move is just incredible. We know how powerful of a move Aura Sphere is. It's 80 damage, 40 energy. It's a 2 damage per energy move, and that I really feel like helps compensate for the fact that you don't get same type attack bonus with it. Because there's a lot of the times where you can have moves that are okay when they get same type attack bonus, but without it, they're pretty terrible. But Aura Sphere feels pretty incredible whether you get same type attack bonus or you don't. So it offers really nice coverage. The pacing is just relentless. The fact that you can just outpace Pokemon like Toucannon, Empoleon, Malamar, all of these 10-turn pacing Pokemon by just having 10-8, 10-8 pacing is just absolutely ridiculous. You pace so quickly, you hit so hard, and then the backline just complements its weaknesses so well. Walrein really likes the fact that Golisopod has kind of vanished, because then Walrein actually ends up being a pretty flexible safe swap. I would say probably the worst Pokemon you could see answering to Walrein would be something like a Volt Switch Fortress, which we did see. But even in that game, we were able to use careful energy management to kind of dance our way around those debuffs, resetting debuffs, saving energy, and still being able to get the win. Como-O, man, Fighting Scales, I was quite disappointed when it did not one-shot that Virizion earlier on. I had high hopes Clanging Scales would just KO, but Virizion's stat product is insane. But Como-O ended up being a really nice closer. Obviously, if you end up on a Fairy type, it's pretty catastrophic, but outside of that, Como-O just puts in some serious work, and this team as a whole ended up being so much fun to play. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. Thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.